Welcome back to our 32 for 32 NFL preview series. We are talking NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. And unlike yesterday, I don't have a problem with the 49ers. So this should be an okay here program. And I actually like what they've done. Interesting to get your take, Brett, to see if this is a team that can make its way back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so if they traded for Pete Carroll somehow, you'd be off the bandwagon.
Completely off the bandwagon. 12th man. I waved my 12th man flag.
By the way, I guess we both are we're not supporting the Niners in a sense because of what we're wearing. We just both happen to be wearing red.
Yes.
It does make sense, though.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of red coming up, so I figured, why might not?
Makes sense. It makes sense. No, it's a really good team. I think they're going to continue to be good, which we'll talk about, and definitely an interesting offseason for them, though.
It absolutely was, and let's get into it. Let's take a look at their offseason acquisitions, departures, and so on. Let's get right at it here. A couple names here standing out as far as acquisitions go. I'm going to go to the last guy on that list, which is Trent Williams. By all accounts, I mean, he's a cornerstone kind of player, but he was in Washington. He was a little bit of a malcontent, but again, he was in Washington, and how could you not be? Look what's going on there. So what's your take there?
Well, I don't even know if he was he was not comfortable with the course of treatment that they had, and then I don't even know if that's necessarily even a malcontent. It had nothing to do regarding the direction of the actual football team. It was regarding his health and his treatment. Yeah.
And the Redskins made him maybe a scapegoat. I don't know what it is, but he didn't come off looking very well. But I think that was more of the Redskins, my opinion, is that was the Redskins making him look bad.
No, I agree. I think they definitely painted the narrative that he was a malcontent, but I really don't view it like that. Honestly, as much as some of those other acquisitions help, and some of them are actually a little bit more recent because they needed some wide receiver depth, that the offensive tackle position is gigantic. And also, when you look at the departures, Joe Staley, their longtime stalwart at left tackle, retired, and now they're replacing him with someone who's even better. And Joe Staley, was a perennial Pro Bowler and definitely, among the upper tier of left tackles, for the past decade.
Is he a Hall of Famer?
Is Joe Staley a Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
I'd have to look a little. My gut reaction is no.
Is that a loaded question a little bit?
In what regard?
A lot of people view him that way. I don't know.
I'd have to look at it a little bit closer. I don't know off the top of my head, for instance, how many all pros or things of that nature. I think when to take a little sidestep for a second, I think when you think of the top offensive tackles from the past decade, I think the name that jumps out is Jason Peters for the Eagles, who now is actually going to be playing guard.
Or maybe not. When we get to it, who knows?
Yeah.
He might be playing tackle, but that's
we'll get to that when we get to the Philadelphia Eagles preview. But I think after him, frankly, I'd probably put Trent Williams, who has not done it for as long. Joe Staley has been very good for a long time. I never viewed him as the absolute best tackle in the league. He never ascended to that because, frankly, you had Jason Peters and you had and also you had Joe Thomas, who frankly I would even put ahead of Jason Peters. So you have Peters, Thomas, and then I'd probably put Staley the grouping after that. And I don't necessarily know if that's a Hall of Fame level grouping. But, if you came to me and said, look, you can have Joe Staley for the next 12 years, sign me up. Right?
Absolutely. I agree with you.
Yeah.
If you told me I could have Trent Williams for the next 5, I'd say sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty remarkable. There's been reports already, because it's only been recently that they've gone to full pads, full padded practice, and they've been doing one-on-ones and O line, D line, and so apparently for 5 straight reps, he just shut Nick Bosa down. And this is before Nick Bosa went down with his leg injury, which he's now week to week, which is something we might discuss later, but. I mean, Trent Williams, I think, is probably the most talented left tackle in the league. Now he's probably up there with Ronnie Stanley, who is quietly becoming one of the best. So that was a tremendous trade by the Niners to get him. A lot of these other guys, I think, really it's more about. And when you're talking about a team, that think about it, they were in with 10 minutes to go in the Super Bowl. They were up 10 points. So that's how close they were to having this would be their 6th Lombardi trophy. And so, when you have that kind of team, it's not like you're really drastically changing or overhauling your roster. You're sort of fine-tuning and adding depth. So a lot of those wide receivers you see were picked up recently because they realized they need a little bit more depth after the departure of Emmanuel Sanders, which you see on the right, and then the COVID opt-out of Travis Benjamin. But some guys who might be able to be on the back end of the roster and help out. And then defensive end Kerry Hyder, I think he might be able to help out in the as a second string rotational guy for the pass rush. And another interesting name there is Jordan Reed, the longtime tight end for the Redskins. When healthy, was one of the best tight ends in the league, but just could never stay healthy. So look, if he's able to stay healthy. Imagine the 1-2 punch with him and George Kittle. I don't think he has as much left in the tank as he once did. But again, if healthy, he definitely could be another solid receiving option. In terms of departures, the biggest one there is DeForest Buckner. But, from that, they got a first-round pick, which they used, and we'll talk about in a little bit, which they used on Javon Kinlaw, who's essentially going to replace him and for not as much money. Emmanuel Sanders, I think that's also a big departure. I thought when he came to the team halfway through the season, the offense really started, the passing game in particular, really started clicking. Levine Toilolo is more of a blocking tight end who's now on the New York Giants. And you go to the COVID opt-outs. Travis Benjamin, I think, was, a bigger one. They kind of brought him in hoping he could stretch the field a little bit. Sean Coleman, Jake Brendel were more expected to provide depth along the offensive line.
Has Emmanuel Sanders become like more of an underrated player around in the league? I've always liked him since his time with Denver, and I guess he was their top guy there, but he never seems to get the love that he deserves.
I always liked him back when he was in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
and even there, because he played second fiddle to Antonio Brown.
Right.
Because you think about it, when he was at Denver, he came in at the tail end of the Peyton Manning era.
Right.
When Peyton Manning's arm basically fell off almost.
Literally.
And so their passing game was not vaunted, so to speak. And then they just haven't had as good a passing game, so his stats haven't been quite as gaudy, so to speak. But I think he's a very talented. Yeah, exactly. Look, and we're going to get into it when we get to the Saints. I think that's a huge pickup for them. So it's just, and look, he got behind the Kansas City Chiefs defense and had Garoppolo hit, throwing the ball on target. The Niners win the Super Bowl.
Right.
So look, I think he's a hell of a receiver. Hey, look, it's never fun to go to the Super Bowl and lose. Mike, you've been there before. I've been there before. It is a shitty experience, but you know what? After the years go on, you do remember that you had a nice run. You get to appreciate some things. Yeah, look, I look back on the Giants Super Bowl 35 season, and look, that was the only home NFC Championship game I ever got to go to. So when they beat the Vikings 41-0, and that's a special memory for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Vikings don't do well playing NFC East teams at home in championship games, do they?
They not.
They just don't show up. But that's neither here nor there.
And historically, they never showed up in the Super Bowl.
That's true. But I look at Super Bowl 39 as an Eagles fan, and Donovan McNabb, Jesus Christ. Let's get to the draft picks of the Niners here. All right. Run it down here. I like it. I like the first round picks. I like the top 2 picks.
Yeah, I mean, look, first off, it's only a 5-person draft, but this draft will be evaluated now and, in several years based upon the performance of those 2 first-round picks. So as I mentioned, they traded with the Indianapolis Colts. They gave away DeForest Buckner, who they just didn't have the money to pay because you have all of these first-rounders on the on the defensive line, and they opted to pay Eric Armstead instead because he probably was a little cheaper. I thought DeForest Buckner was the better piece, but I can look. You can't pay everybody, so it's allocation of resources. Javon Kinlaw was considered by many to be the second best defensive tackle coming out of the draft, probably even a better pass rusher than the top-rated defensive tackle. Derek Brown from Auburn. I think he's super talented. I think he needs to be just a little bit more consistent, but I think the competitive juices kind of when he's lining up with the Nick Bosa's, Eric Armstead, D Ford, I think that's going to bring the best out of him because he's just going to be able to pin his ears back and get after it. And then they also drafted Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State at the end of the first round, who really talented player. He has like an incredibly long wingspan. I forget. It's like the equivalent to someone who's like, I want to say like 6'9", even though he's only like 6 feet tall or 5'11". Really good after the catch. So I think they're hoping at least he will bring a lot of what Emmanuel Sanders had. The thing is, Emmanuel Sanders was a seasoned veteran, whereas this kid is coming in, even though Arizona State is now running much more of a pro-level program because of Herm Edwards and their coaching staff. Still a lot to put on even a first-round wide receiver. The rest of those 3 picks are kind of developmental guys to bring in the back end of the roster. Juwan Jennings is a very large wide receiver who they may even be able to put at tight end. That's why he never actually had like a position designation because he's sort of like this flex offensive weapon, so to speak. So it should be interesting. But again, it really comes down to those 2 top guys. And as we mentioned, when you're a team like the Niners, you went 13-3. You're just retooling. You're refining the car. It's not like you have to do a complete rebuild, right? And so it's pretty interesting. You're on mute again, buddy.
God damn! I had a whole. It was great. It was great what I was saying there.
We'll never know.
We will never know. We are going to get to it. We're going to get to it. The 4 key questions and we're not editing this out. So everyone who's watching this is going to be like, I did it again. What a moron.
It's okay.
It is fine. 4 key questions for the San Francisco 49ers in 2020. And I would beg to say that question number 1 maybe goes beyond 2020, but can the Niners win a Super Bowl with Jimmy G? Great question.
I think so. I honestly do.
I agree. I like him.
I don't love him. I like him.
But I like him.
Yeah, no.
It wasn't like, oh my God, he's the next best thing. He's the greatest quarterback since Tom Brady.
Yeah, no, exactly. To me, it's that, look, no matter what you say, with Jimmy Garoppolo, they were up 10 points with 10 minutes to go. And it wasn't just, he wasn't the only reason that they lost. So, yeah, he missed a few throws. But look, I go back to, for instance, the game earlier in the season when they went down to New Orleans, and he put up over 300 yards and really helped propel them to a victory. That was the game where George Kittle made that tremendous play on 4th down, streaking down the sideline. But look, I think you can win with him. Look, he's not going to be I don't think he's ever going to be a top 10 quarterback in this league, but I think he's good enough, particularly as this team is constructed, to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to call him a game manager because I think he can do a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
But he is let's call him a system quarterback.
Yeah.
This is a system guy.
Yeah.
Staying with the offense, what worries you most about the Niners offense? Good or bad? Is there a weapon that really scares you other than Kittle? And is there something that is just like, man, these guys aren't that good?
I think honestly right now what worries me the most is the receiver group, particularly with the absence of Emmanuel Sanders. You have Deebo Samuel who really came on. But if you think about it, a lot of what Deebo Samuel was also doing was a lot of the unique running plays and screens kind of that they had. So you brought in Brandon Ayuk, you brought in those veterans that we mentioned. They had drafted in recent drafts. They had brought on Jalen Hurd, the converted running back from Tennessee, and a few other running backs, or excuse me, a few other wide receivers Dante Pettis, who just haven't quite clicked yet. So I think this is an unproven wide receiver group in general. And again, you're replacing Emmanuel Sanders with another rookie. So that's why they brought in J.J. Nelson and Tavon Austin. And those guys, look, there's a reason that they were available because they're not that highly sought after right now. So I think the receiver group definitely needs to prove themselves.
On defense, I enjoyed watching their defense. Can this defense pick up where it left off a season ago?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, DeForest Buckner is a guy, sign me up. I mean, he's really like right there with like Fletcher Cox, honestly. Maybe like just below. I don't think he quite shows up statistically the way Fletcher Cox at least did in the last few years. But, one of the best defensive tackles in the league. But all in all, this is a great defensive line, very active linebacker core. The secondary is pretty good. And it's a mix of old and young, but I think the younger players are starting, like a guy like Akella Witherspoon is starting to come on. So I think I really do. I think they're just going to sort of just pick up where they left off and hit the ground running. And particularly because of COVID, they're really going to take advantage of some of the teams with new coaching staffs, things of that nature.
Yeah, it's definitely going to help. And we're going to get to that when we get to the big preview show or prediction show, excuse me. Who is the most underrated player on this defense?
The guy who I really love watching, and I think even this year might even become an all-pro, is I believe he's the weak side linebacker, Fred Warner, number 54 for the defense. Love watching that guy play. He seems to be every big splash play, he's there. He's either making it, contributing to it. He's the guy who's picking up the fumble, picking off, getting the interception. Really, Fred Warner is a guy he's among the few guys I would really build a defense around. I think he's that good.
We are going to give you our prediction on the San Francisco 49ers as we come to the end here for our big NFL prediction show. I have a feeling, though, we're both fairly high on the Niners and where they can go. If you're enjoying this here program, hey, throw a subscribe, throw a thumbs up, drop a comment. If it's an unnecessary comment, we're going to probably shoot you down. We're not afraid to do that. We appreciate that. Hey, Daily Fantasy Sports, follow the scroll on the bottom. We're working with Thrive Fantasy, thrivefantasy.com. Use code SEC247 and get yourself a free $20. Who doesn't like $20? I like $20.
Yeah.
I'm Mike. That's Brett. We will see you tomorrow when we venture to the National Football Conference South.